CRA. I just direct your attention to a couple of things, really. First of all, I want to welcome Hugh and Gary. I'm fantastic that they're leading this work, and they are leading it literally internationally, I would say. We had a webinar that some people attended, which was an international webinar, and the issues there were very similar to some of the issues we'll talk about here in terms of student progression and programs at a variety of levels, and how we helping our students get the most out of their learning, but also present themselves effectively as they progress from higher education. And many postgraduate researchers don't stay in academic context. You don't need me to tell you that. So before I hand over to Hugh and Gary with my thanks, a couple of things that I think are important. One is, in a minute, I'll ask Nicola to just mute microphones. And the reason for doing that is that if you're in an open plan office, apart from Hugh and Gary, of course, if you're in an open plan office, the mics are fantastic at picking up stuff you don't want them to, and we get a lot of background chatter. But I would also draw your attention to the chat window, and that should be located on my screen. It's on the right-hand side in a column, just below the list of attendees, and you'll see that a number of people have said hello in that context, which is great. If people want to say who they are, that will be good too in the chat box. And what we will do is to encourage you really to write your thoughts into that chat box as we go along. I will keep an eye on it so that when Hugh and Gary have introduced the theme to us, worked through the slides we're having a look at, then we can reprise any issues you've raised in the chat and have a bit of time for questions as well. So that's the plan. With that, I'm going to hand over to Hugh and Gary. I'm assured, as usual, colleagues in Swansea, that it is sunny in Swansea, because I think the refrain is that it's always sunny in Swansea. And you've got a photo on the front slide which I think bears testimony to that. Hugh, I don't know whether you want to switch your slides from the format we've got into slideshow, and then I'll hand on to you and look forward to this session. Thanks very much.
We'll try the slideshow but yesterday didn't work, so we'll try it. And okay. If you could confirm whether or not this is acceptable. Let's have a look from the beginning. Does that appear? Is that okay for you?
Okay, we've now got your first slide, and in the right-hand column, your next slide showing up.
Yes, it's the following slide. So the option is yours. Which would you prefer? I think I've got the other
one. I think that's okay as it is, but they're both similar size, I think, colleagues. So
I'll go with this one, okay? Because I can see more on our side of the screen. Yes, you mentioned the sun in Swansea. It is extremely sunny here, except for one place, which is called the Liberty Stadium. And unfortunately, the Swans are not doing as well as they should be doing. But fingers crossed, and I hope there's nobody there from Hull City, because we hope to take over from Hull. However, I'm going to go on to talk about the postgraduate here, and through this give you some background information about why we embarked upon this project, and also where it's led me personally in terms of involvement in a review by the European Commission on the diploma supplement itself. So I intend to take you through that journey and hopefully recruit you to assist us in the future to make this a national template and to roll it out in the UK, and hopefully through best practice to ensure that it's replicated overseas as well. Just as background information, I used to be the academic registrar at Swansea University, and through that work I became involved in the Bologna process, and I felt that the diploma supplement was a document which we as a university ought to offer to our students free of charge. However, the diploma supplement only related to undergraduate and to taught master students. And I kept on asking the question of what do we provide our research students? And apart from a degree certificate and the occasional statement, we as a university didn't offer them any meaningful transcript or document. I started asking colleagues the same question throughout the UK, and I soon heard that the practice was pretty common, and therefore I embarked upon the process of developing a year or a diploma supplement for research students. And that's the background in effect. In terms of the first slide, what I'm trying to explain here is that in my time in the university, I've worked here since 1984, I have seen a significant change in the nature of a research degree. Initially, when I first started as a faculty administrator here, we used to record the details of the research degrees, and they were largely your 3-year or 4-year research degree. That's changed. And also, there is greater emphasis now on training and other experiences for a doctoral candidate. You know, for instance, just the vitae work. And we are expecting doctoral students to have more experience of working in industry or potentially overseas. So these are achievements, and I just ask the question, how do we record and how do we promote research students' achievements and experiences? Because a research or a doctoral candidate is as likely to look for employment after the end of their candidature as an undergraduate or a master's student. Therefore, I feel we are obliged to help them and to enhance their employability. I just list a few of the models of doctoral degrees here. Obviously, the research-based degree. Then you've got, in Swansea, certainly we have an industry-based Eng-D, working in partnership with Rolls-Royce and Tata Steel. Then we have overseas experiences where our academics encourage our doctoral students to spend times in research labs overseas. At Swansea we have a number of co-tutel arrangements or joint degrees where students study half in Swansea and half of their time in the overseas partner. We have degrees, for instance, with the Sorbonne in Paris, with Grenoble, and a number of other institutions throughout Europe. Then you've got the taught combined with a research degree. And I question then, how do we record and how do we promote the modules which a research student might pursue during the course of the candidature? And then other doctoral degrees, for instance, by publication. The employment market for doctoral candidates, I suspect in the past that the vast majority of doctoral candidates might have progressed into academia. But that's not the case anymore. Academia, industry, general employment, international employment. And we should prepare our students for that international market. The competition and the challenges to secure employment is growing. And also we need to respond to IT developments and the use of social media such as LinkedIn. The expectations, I mentioned earlier, the expectations of doctoral candidates. More and more of these are teaching or demonstrating and assisting in the delivery of academic programs at the bachelor level and possibly at master's level. The training courses that we expect doctoral students to pursue during the course of their candidature, how do we record it and how do we promote these? The publications, conferences, and also the industrial or overseas experiences. If, for instance, I take I was talking last week to our joint PhD candidate with the Sorbonne in Paris, and I showed her a copy of the diploma supplement, or the Here for Research student. She was absolutely thrilled at the prospect of possibly piloting this for me with the Sorbonne. We've also got a collaborative PhD with the University of Amsterdam, and I showed again what we intend doing. And they were very, very keen to engage with us in that process because, again, they don't have a system for recording and promoting these students' achievements. And the last bullet point on that slide, the supplementary modules to extend the knowledge. Again, some PhD students pursue modules as a part of their course, but others might want to extend their knowledge and pursue a master's or a bachelor module just to extend that knowledge and to give them that broader knowledge base. So my question, I suppose, to you all is, I'm pretty sure that this is common within your universities, how do you record and how do you promote these achievements? I'd also like to share, your experiences. You might have a better system of doing it, and therefore, if we could have a discussion at the end of my presentation, then that would help us progress. Rob, I'm going to pause there for a second because I got a message here. You may be experiencing network connection difficulties. Can you please confirm that you can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, thanks.
So yes, yeah, the technology is, from certainly our point of view, misrepresenting things. Yeah, we're fine. Right. And it might be helpful just to encourage people to have a think about, as you're saying there, Hugh, what people already do in this field and how this might feed into this kind of thinking or take advantage of this kind of thinking indeed. So back to you.
Yeah. Okay, so the university's responsibilities, I've said it already, I feel that we have a responsibility as a university to support a doctoral candidate as much as a master or as much as an undergraduate. The practice of issuing transcripts for undergraduate and master students has been long established, and therefore I want to move into the doctoral level. I would like to be able to record all the skills, the achievements and the experiences for these students, but more importantly that the university can confirm that it has verified them. The fact that we simply record something is one thing, but to verify it so that an employer can rely on that statement. I'm fully aware that every candidate can present to an employer their own CV, but again, are the facts in that CV verified? So we want to offer that security to an employer. Then we'd look at facilitating employers' access to the data. And therefore, we've drawn upon our experiences of working with Grad Intel to create an electronic diploma supplement, or HERE, for undergraduate and master's students. And again, it was a requirement of ours that the research candidates diploma supplement would be deposited online and accessible and searchable by the employers. So going back to the work that has been undertaken in the UK on the Higher Education Achievement Report, you will have noted that currently I use the term HERE and diploma supplement as if they were one document. They are virtually the same document, but they are not the same. So I'm going to concentrate for the time being on the HERE. The Higher Education Achievement Report is designed to encourage a more sophisticated approach to recording student achievement, which acknowledges fully the range of opportunities that higher education institutions in the UK offer to their students. I think the word acknowledges fully the range of opportunities is important. And the reason why I'm distinguishing between the here and the diploma supplement here is that I have been part of a working group which is reviewing the diploma supplement, and I've been telling them about the innovative approach of the here team in the UK, which has enabled us at Swansea and throughout the UK to record extracurricular achievements as well as their academic achievement. However, the advisory group for the European Commission have come to the conclusion that they only want to record degree-related achievements on the diploma supplement. And the new guidelines, which will be issued, I don't know when, will reflect that. So the big difference for me there is the ability and the facility to record extracurricular activities as a part of a student's achievement. The template for the UK, for the here for research students was originated in Swansea. I spoke to students, I asked them what information would they want to record on the here. We had input from the academics, and then we had endorsement from the academic committees. It was from there then that we approached CRA and various other organizations. National webinars were arranged, and the template which I proposed was amended slightly. I will stress that the template that I will show you in a minute is based on the diploma supplement, but it isn't a full reflection of the diploma supplement. It has been adapted for research candidates. Again, as a part of the advisory group for the European Commission, I proposed to them that the group should endorse the idea of developing a bespoke doctoral candidate diploma supplement, but that was not supported. And I will come back to the work of this review group shortly. But these small, shall we say, obstacles mean that I will be proposing that the here for research student be that and not pretend to be a diploma supplement as well, because I certainly do not have the endorsement of the advisory group or of the Commission. But I'll come back to that shortly. So King's College through Vaughan Robinson and Swansea were asked to promote the national debate, which we've done, engage with European universities, which I personally have done. I presented at the EUA Council for Doctoral Education, and I've represented these views to the European Commission's advisory group on the diploma supplement. We were also asked to pilot new software, and Swansea University commissioned Grad Intel to adapt the undergraduate and masters here into a doctoral one. Therefore, let's have a look at this one. We've got a template which I believe is workable, and I would commend it to you. So that's one question which I would like to ask as a part of this webinar. Are you happy with the template, and can we then proceed through a conference in Manchester on the 3rd of, or I think it's the 3rd of May, to adopt this as a national template for a UK here? Right, and let's see whether I can get the here up for you on the screen. Does that appear on the screen for you?
It does. It does, yes. We can see, starting with contextual information here.
Okay. So the wording in that section, the contextual information, is lifted from the diploma supplement. But as I mentioned earlier, I think this will have to be amended because it certainly hasn't been developed by the European Commission, Council of Europe and UNESCO. And therefore statements like that will have to come out. We can quite easily state that it's based on the diploma supplement, but that's it. Then the information on the holder of the qualification, that's basically drawn from the student record system. So you've got the surname, date of birth, student number, and the HISA identification number. A qualification, which is the doctoral candidate in biology, this one, Swansea University, and it gives some background information on the university. Now, why won't you take me to the next page? Okay, information on the level of the qualification, doctoral degree mainly by research. This one is 3 years, and then the access requirements. There's nothing new to these sections. These are all lifted from the diploma supplement and the here. Again, the mode of study. This is a small, a very basic transcript of the students' engagement so far, full-time, past probation. And then the program requirements. These are the Dublin descriptor for a doctoral candidate in Europe. I will leave them there for you for a second to read. But basically that's been totally lifted from the European model. I suppose individual universities could put their own learning outcomes for a doctoral degree, or they can adopt this, or we can develop national learning outcomes. Then you've got program details and the grade marks. Now then, this student, this is the full one, is it? Yeah. This student has pursued a module, and we included this information so that you can see the flexibility of the software. If a student hasn't pursued a module, this section doesn't appear, and neither will the section which follows describing the grade system.
Quite the next one.
So that student has done one module, science skills and research methods. Then we'll go on to the status of the research candidate, postgraduate research student. The thesis title is there. And then the summary of the research thesis. This could be longer, could be shorter. It's up to the student. And that section, as far as I'm concerned, is extremely important because from an employer's perspective, the student can offer a description of what that title actually means. And the student can adapt that for the need of the employer. You've got the supervisory team, again taken from our SITS student record system. And then the nature of the program, doctoral mainly by research. Now what I'd like to be able to do shortly is to develop a similar template, as I mentioned, for a joint doctoral candidate with the Sorbonne. And therefore, under the supervisory team, you would have the Swansea supervisors as well as those from the Sorbonne listed there. You would have the nature of the program would be a joint degree or a double degree with the Sorbonne. And therefore, that would really enhance that student's experience, employability. The grading scheme will not be there unless the student will have pursued the module. And then you've got the classification of the candidate. And this is where the doctoral higher education achievement report changes from the template for the undergraduate. And what we have done here is to identify those achievements which are relevant for a doctoral degree. For instance, publications, which is listed there. conference presentations, and supplementary experience, 3 months in Brazil, that can be extended to explain where and for what purpose did the student spend the time in Brazil. Then you've got professional development and training, the candidate's achievements. These would be training and skills, teaching experiences, and again, Dean would have taught on. And then qualifications, for instance, teaching English or whatever. And then we've included a section here on award and prizes. And this student has achieved something for the Swansea Employability Award. And then finally, the certification at the end. I'll pause there, and I don't know whether I can't present and read all of the emails at the same time. So I'm just wondering if there have been any questions on the email trail that you want me to answer at this stage.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. A couple of particular queries about section 4 and a general question, I think, which colleagues may want to add comments in the chat. 333, just if you go back up that page, that is the next page, next one down to you, if you don't mind, top of the next page.
Page, what number? 433. 433.
434.
Yes, sorry, my fault.
43.
Okay, the program details. Keep going down a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, the summary of the research thesis, just a query about how that gets generated. Is that something that the student proposes and the institution agrees with, or does it have an official place in the institutional system?
We'll explain, or Gary will explain shortly how it's recorded, but okay, the system is sufficiently flexible to reflect each institution's operating systems. For instance, a university might agree on a title or the synopsis, or let's stick with the thesis title. They might start with a thesis title and they get that approved, and during the course of the doctoral candidature that is changed. Now, a student can't change a title without authority from the supervisor or from a committee, but Gary will explain to you how this can be managed.
Right, grand. Okay, so we'll park that for a second then, and just another query in relation to the point in category immediately below, the supervisory team. Colleague just checking how people, the question is, do you check with the supervisory team to get approval for their names to be listed?
Well, a supervisor will have been assigned to a student, and that information, as far as we are concerned, is public.
Right.
Whether it's a good question, and to be honest with you, we haven't addressed it.
That's why we're having this conversation.
But I suspect that what we will say is that if you are a PhD supervisor, and you know, in any application for employment, surely that should be made available to the employer. But it's a good question, and I don't have an honest answer.
No, it may be that something has to be, you know, simply written into the protocols and so on. Okay, yeah. I've left a question right at the foot of that, which is yes, dates of supervision has been added to that sort of area from John. Dates of supervision by individual supervisors within the team would be useful.
I understand that fully, particularly with a change of supervisor, and that is a very useful comment which we can take back to the system developers. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, keep piling things into the chat, folks, please. I think the question that we might come back to is the one I just raised, which I think is for everyone on the call, which is the extent to which your definition in section 5 and section 6, which as you were saying is where the doctoral supplement template diverts from the diploma supplement, might those sections do justice to candidates in different institutions? So I'd encourage people to have a think about that, and we may come back to that in the context of this development opportunity that you're creating. So rather than take it now, we'll take it perhaps towards the end.
Okay, thank you.
That's grand. I think that brings us up to speed with the kinds of questions that people are asking, and just to encourage people to keep going with those, and we'll pick some more up later on.
Okay then, so I'm going to hand over to Gary. I think I've covered everything on this slide, other than just to draw to your attention that the information to be able to be produced must be recorded somewhere. And I suspect that most of your student record systems will not be able to accommodate the need to record all of that information. And therefore, some of the information has been drawn from the student record system, others from a student supervisor record of achievement, which is an e-document, and then a report is generated by software and issued by the university centrally. So it's a combination of a number of sources. So I'll go down onto the next, and then I'm going to pass over to Gary. Gary Jones, who has been responsible for implementing the pilot here in Swansea.
Hello there.
Hi, Gary.
Oops, what have I done? I clicked the wrong
Yeah,
one.
go ahead.
Okay, I'm not going to provide a demo of the system today. But hopefully I'll give you enough information and background for you to actually get a good feel of what the system does and its flexibility as well, in terms of it works for us, but it's been designed in a way that it'll work for anyone really, I would have hoped. But if it doesn't work for you, then please let us know. We can feed that back to the developers. There's a setup stage to the system where you have to set up your research profile. The screen you have in front of you is a section of one of the setup screens. I've taken that section and enlarged it because it was a bit small otherwise. Where you can, first of all, you have to assign which students are eligible to have a here for postgraduate, or postgraduate here. You then set up a research profile, and the developers have very handily generated a template that you can use, which I think mirrors what I have on the screen. And these are the sections that will get included in the here. So you generate that template, and then it's a matter then of going into each individual activity and amending it to the type you want. So for example, there are 3 different types of data source. So we have an institution-led data source. So in this case, we have training and skills near the bottom is an institution data source. So that means somebody in the institution, other than the student, will be entering that information. We have a database feed as well, which is the ET server data source. So that gets pulled directly from the database. But then the content of the here is primarily going to be student driven, and most of the sections on there are student driven. Each one of those activity types then can have multiple entry if you want, and behind each one of those activities you can set up who has the authority to verify what has been entered by the student. So in this particular case, I've got the student as a data source for the synopsis, because we don't currently capture that synopsis at an early enough stage for it to appear on the here and be able to be shared through the GradIntel system. So we've pushed it towards the student. Now, if you noticed in the synopsis of the example Hugh showed, there was a random formula in that section, which is entirely random because I just put it in there to show that it could capture these complex formulae as well, which might be relevant for scientific mathematical courses or research programs. So I thought that was one of the developments that I've been working on with the GradIntel people to try and make it as useful as possible to all students. So behind each one of these activities, like I said, there's a person who, or people, or a group of people who will be authorized to verify each activity. We are intending to set a research profile, because a person is attached to each activity or each research profile. We have to set up research profiles at college level because the people who are going to verify are the college administrators. So we have to sort of set up a dozen or so maybe research profiles. But with the aid of this template, it doesn't take long to set up each profile. Maybe it takes 15 minutes to set up the data source and then include the email address that you want to use to notify the person to say that there's some information there to verify. I think that's all I wanted to say there. So once you've set up your profile, you can then attach a student to that profile, and they will then, once they've activated their GradIntel account, have access to the research hub, I guess you could call it, of the GradIntel system. This screen here is a section of their data entry screen, if you like, again enlarged so you can see it. In this particular case, points 7 and 8 are supplementary research achievements and research grants and awards. There's been an entry put in for the supplementary research achievements, which was the 3 months in Brazil, which you saw on the previous template. You can see on the top right of that box, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but it's student driven and there's multiple entries. So if the student wanted to enter another entry, they would click that little plus and then they would enter a second entry. The intention is for these students to enter this information and they can click and save it. Every 3 months they will have formal supervision meetings with their supervisors, and we are, as it happens, in the process of implementing a new research management system with the tribal team, with SITS as well. And each meeting will be defined as a supervisor or an award or a confirmation of candidature. And within those meetings, there'll be a series of questions, and one question in the supervision meetings will have reference to the here and whether they've updated any achievements or activities that would be relevant for the here to go on there. Once the supervisor is happy with what they've entered, who can confirm that it's accurate, and they can then submit it, and it's at that point that the college administrator gets notified and they can then verify it. And then a couple of weeks after each supervision cycle, there will be a global update of the here to include these achievements or activities onto the here. Now once verified, this particular example here, 3 months in Brazil, doesn't give much information at all. So the student may decide to revisit that in the future, near the end of their course potentially. I say I want to add a bit more information in there. It was yesterday, I think, that I spoke to the developers in GradIntel to suggest that students should still be able to edit their entries after verification. So they were going to introduce a new edit button to allow them to expand or alter that, but then that triggers the whole verification process again. So you'd have to go through the supervisor and then be finally verified by the college administrator at the end. We've been testing the software.
Do you want to stop there and ask any questions? I could see something coming in there from Rob. So yeah. Are there any questions that we need to answer at this stage?
I think mine was as much a comment as anything, in the sense that that sounds a very fine-grained opportunity, because the implication is that the HERE will evolve potentially 4 times in a year if you have supervision meetings quarterly. And that, I mean, I'm just applauding that from a distance.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, as it happens, we are implementing a sister system, if you're going to call it, because they'll go hand in hand. And we will make sure that there's reference to the HERE within the new supervision meetings, so that if there are anything that needs to be added, then they'll be reminded of it. So it's just keeping it in the forefront of their mind, really, so that, like you say, there's a quarterly intake of students, and the meetings are quarterly, so all supervision meetings will happen at the same time, and within a particular month, and then the following month there'll be just a global update of all the HEREs, whether they've had new activities or not. Right. So it seems to make sense to me. So we're trying to take that opportunity to make it happen in that way.
Thanks, Gary. And that's just prompted another query about supervisors, and the question I think being raised here is whether you've had good buy-in, maybe too early to tell, good buy-in from your supervisors to help support this process through their meetings with students.
We've tested it with 3 students and 2 supervisors so far. Right. And I've had a meeting with, well, I've had meetings with all of them, obviously. It was very positive, as it happens. The supervisors were very pleased to see something like this in place. Maybe not so much as the students. Students were very keen to have it. They could see all the benefits of having everything in the one place, rather than having, I don't know, some information in a file here and a file there. It was all contained in the one document. They could see the benefits of having that so with them when they leave the university. So in terms of the supervisors, I'm hoping that it won't be an onerous task for them in their supervision meetings. It'll be one question in a series of questions, and it'll be a check process on their behalf to make sure that the student has actually done what they claim to have done. So any publications, conferences attended, and such like. So that's the from the supervisor point of view, it shouldn't be too onerous a task. So I'm hoping it would be quite good buy-in. But the 2 people that we've had have been very positive about it, and they were very keen to hear what feedback we were going to have from today's meeting and the meeting in May as well, because we can see that there'll be a period of training over the summer, not just for this system, but for the research management system as well, because they go hand in hand. And hopefully it won't go down like a lead balloon, as they say. So we've done this on a test environment at the moment, and we've asked the students to enter information, and a few things that come out of that in terms of the process of submitting and the process of verifying, and also this idea of editing information that has already been verified as well. I think that's quite an important one. And an important one as well, to take the weight off college administrators as well, so they're not in a position where once they verify it, that's the be-all and end-all. It's a document that we see as being driven by the student and not by the supervisor or the college administrator, really. They're just there for a checking process. The student is the one responsible for making sure that what goes on here, they are happy with. So having this edit option at the end takes the weight off, takes the pressure off the college administrator, I believe, in a way.
Right. I don't know whether you've just picked up the question there from Joy, which is a very practical focus, which is, I guess it's a how does it happen in relation to the HERE, in relation to your one question, Gary. You may not know yet, or it may be too early to know, but that notion of do the supervisors explicitly, I think, focus around the Grad Intel page, or is that that very much left up to them? And
well, it'll be either the supervisor or the student will have the Grad Intel system open. They have to view that data entry screen, for want of a better word, and at the bottom of each section, when they click, they can click verify, and there'll be an information there who the supervisor was who verified or was happy for that information to be submitted. So it does have to be open for them to view that information
at some point. Okay, so the option might be, this is a question, the student arrives having added an entry and presents it with some to the supervisor for that verification process as part of the meeting.
Yes.
Yes, there'll be a question as part of the meeting set up with the research management system, explicitly confirming that if there's any information that needs to be verified for the here. Okay. So it'll keep it at the forefront of any conversation every quarter.
And you know what you have to remember is that the supervisor will have approved any requests to attend conferences, will know of any publications, and therefore this isn't an onerous task of them having to go through their records to find out whether or not the student has actually published. They should know that about the student in any case. And in all fairness to Gary and the systems developers, we have removed as much of the bureaucracy involved in this process to a very, very bare minimum. And we've tried to ensure that emails are not being thrown around so that it becomes a really workable and user-friendly system. But again, we'll demonstrate the system in Manchester on the 3rd of May.
Great stuff.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
In terms of the enhancements to the software, the testing process has identified areas for streamlining. In terms of the submission process, they can now submit all items as one job lot. Once you submit that as a group, you'll have the one email instead of a number of emails going to the college administrator. The verification process can be done in one job lot as well. So, like he was saying, we try to minimize the amount of burden there is on supervisors and college administrators, because it is supposed to be driven by the students. So they're the ones responsible ultimately for what appears on the here. Formatting of text for publication.
Yeah, you're talking there about the need to try and introduce some sort of system to ensure that what appears on the system, they've got to remember that that is how it will appear on the actual here.
There's a training requirement for students as well, obviously. Whatever they type in to the GradIntel system will appear exactly as is on the here, which is good in a one way, so at least it's a sort of a preview in a sense, but they just need to be aware that if they're not happy with what appears within their text box on the GradIntel system, then they won't be happy with what's on the here. There's the enhancement of recording supplementary academic modules on the here as well, which we've already touched upon. A large number, quite a lot of students, research students, do supplementary modules, and that was one of the more positive things that students felt about the here, that they were actually recording some information about their taught element as well. We did find when we reviewed the here template that Hugh and Swansea and King's College had developed, there was some duplication within the sections, so we removed one or two of the sections to streamline it a bit more and to make it more simplified. So please express your views on the GradIntel system, because we can feed those back to the developers. Hopefully I've given you enough of an oversight of how the system works for you to actually give some feedback. We can then further refine the system and also the template so that it's flexible for all. Like I've said, we are linking the here into a research management system, but we're also implementing for September as well. because the intention is for us to launch the HERE in September alongside the new research management system, and within each supervision meeting there will be reference to the HERE, so that is kept at the forefront of any conversation that they have with the supervisor, between the supervisor and the student. And yeah, I mean, it's from my perspective, there's little bits of sort of editing to do within the system. There's a couple of things in the template. If you notice, there were some bigger gaps than maybe could be in some sections than there were in other sections. There's little things like that in terms of design that we can still tweak, but I think ultimately it's more or less there in terms of usability, and I'll ask again for more further testing from students and supervisors to give more feedback, and hopefully that'll be a sort of a second iteration of testing, and we will be more or less there then, hopefully, unless people come up with some very useful suggestions from today and May.
Okay, so just to close our presentation, we hopefully will implement this fully for all students, research students in 2017 for next academic year. The flexibility of the system means that students can backdate and then record and verify that, and therefore no student will find that they haven't got that opportunity. It is important also to state that this is an opt-in and that students can ignore it. They don't have to get involved in this. But if a student does want to be involved in the development of their HERE, then we would say that it is a requirement on their supervisors to assist them. I've mentioned that we hope to run 2 other pilots on the international degrees, and possibly we'll add in an industrial-based degree as well, so that we will have a template for a 3-year PhD, a joint PhD and a collaborative PhD, and also one with industry. I've mentioned more than once that I sit on an advisory group for the diploma supplement. This was commissioned by the European Commission, and there are 4 advisory groups reviewing the Bologna process as it stands. Advisory Group 4 is meant to look and to review the diploma supplement. It was asked to look at 3 themes: the current design of the template and the associated guidelines, the digitalization of the diploma supplement, and the doctoral diploma supplement. I think we have spent 4, if not 5 meetings looking at words, changing words on the current template, and to be frank with you, it's not going to change significantly. We've had very little discussion on the doctoral diploma supplement, but there appears to be quite a strong faction which is against developing a doctoral degree diploma supplement. In case I lost the battle on that, I've made the recommendation that another group be established to look into this. But I'll keep you informed of that. In terms of digitalization, the Commission asked a private company to carry out a full review of options in terms of digitalizing the diploma supplement. And the UK came out top in terms of that. You know, I'll be honest with you as well that we are dealing with some countries that believe that the digitalization of the diploma supplement is saving an electronic version and sending that out as an attachment to an email. When I gave a presentation on what the Grad Intel system can do, I think most around the table were flabbergasted by the potential. But again, some of the countries don't have the resources to implement such changes. And so what I have said isn't a criticism, but it is a check on reality that although we can introduce a digital diploma supplement here in the UK, a lot of countries can't do that. And therefore the the brakes are on in terms of looking to the future. However, the report by the Commission was extremely well received, and it was well written in that they offered an incremental process for digitalizing the diploma supplement, aiming to get other countries to catch up with the UK. And then there will be another one meeting of this group, and I think that will be held out in Armenia in September. Again, just to give you an indication of what we're working with, when I asked, right, when can we expect this to be endorsed? It has to be endorsed by all of those bodies which developed the diploma supplement. And somebody representing the Council for Europe said the earliest that we can get this onto the agenda for the Council of Europe is 2019. Therefore, if we were to wait until the doctoral diploma supplement was to be endorsed by Europe, forget that until 2025. And that is why I am saying and recommending to you that UK develops a year for research students, and that could be the basis for future developments in Europe if they want to. But I don't want to be constrained by the developments in Europe and the way it operates slowly. I'm leaving a few suggestions for you as chair in terms of discussions, but it's open to you now.
Thank you very much, Hugh. We've not got a huge amount of time. Nicola, if you're still with us, if you can unmute people's microphones, that would be helpful. If you don't have that facility, colleagues, please jot any comments you have in the chat box. I wonder, given the time constraints that people might have, then particularly the idea of taking things forwards with colleagues, it might be appropriate to circulate the template. You'll hear I'm asking this very tentatively, Hugh, to the people on the call and see if they would want to talk to a student or two in their own institution, so that we could perhaps get some feedback from other institutions about student reactions to the approach. But you may not want to do that at this stage.
We'll consider that. I think the best thing to do is to come to the Manchester meeting, and then we can possibly leave copies.
Okay, that's fantastic. Right. Okay. There's just a note from John here about key benefits when compared to the VTI planner. And a note that which Alison might want to know, that the planner is good but often seems underexploited. So the relationship between the two we might need to be think about as one additional question going forwards. I think I'd just like to give people a chance before we finish just to take your first question or your first bullet point there here about the template, and particularly sections 5 and 6 that are in the template that you showed, whether those cover the territory that people are interested in. Alison's put a note here as being the planner being an option for people to complete sections 5 and 6. So where people are using the VTI planner, then there might be a symbiotic kind of connection which will allow students to propose things for section 5 and 6 based on the work in the planner. How does that sound to you, Gary and Hugh? Does that?
I'd agree with that entirely. And what we must remember is that the student will also have a CV and also have, you know, the VTI planner and what have you to distribute. And a lot of these are topics which can instigate discussion with an employer in an interview as well.
Yes, and I was very struck by your comment that what was welcomed by the students was having things in one place. That notion of a central reference point that I think Gary picked up particularly about, student feedback. So not having necessarily multiple sources of information that they've got to drag together, but actually something that they can just use as a central repository and reference point for the kinds of purposes that Hugh's just articulated in terms of presentation to employers particularly. Okay. Are there any other? Sorry, Gary.
And the here only, of course, only includes information that is verified by the university as well,
Indeed.
which is giving it more weight as well.
Yes, and that also, in a sense, connects with Hugh's point about the CV, because the CV can be a piece of creative writing, should the student wish it to be. Not that we would endorse that in any way, shape or form. Colleagues, we're out of time. In fact, we're slightly over time, which I apologise for. There's always not enough time. I wonder if what we should do is to circulate, if this is all right with Hugh and Gary, the recording of the session and the slides, and provide particularly the issues about the template and so on that you've got on the final slide, colleagues, and invite people to drop you a note, a reflective note even, based upon their considered opinions about how they would like to be involved going forwards, because I think this is the first bit of what we might call the second stage of a national conversation about how to take this forwards. Does that sound okay?
Yes, it does.
Brilliant. Okay, we will get on with that then. If you have, we'll include this last bit in terms of the comment. Hopefully we'll see some people from the group at least. Joy, particularly welcoming the idea of continuing this conversation. That's great. Thank you, Joy. We'll circulate the slides and we'll ensure that people have addresses to respond to. Hugh's just put his email down the bottom of the page. We'll do that ASAP, might be sometimes next week. I would encourage people, if you're coming to the meeting in Manchester, that would be great. If you're not coming but you'd like to come, the system hopefully will be demonstrated there and you can have a second go round the discussion. I think we should also all get the prayer mat out and pray for Swansea, because they might need a little bit of assistance, and I don't think there's anybody from Hull on the call, but if there is, we probably got more than one prayer mat. There's certainly nobody from Sunderland on the call, as far as I know. But that probably doesn't matter, Hugh. Can I just thank Gary and Hugh profusely, really, for an absolutely fascinating session. It's brilliant, the progress that has been made. And I think we've got something. It feels a bit like the start of the year when Europe was saying, well, we're not sure, we don't know, we've got what we need. And now, of course, in very real senses, particularly at the institutional level, people in Europe are very taken with the idea of a digital record which promotes and recognises and showcases student achievement. I think we are emboldened by that to take it forwards. Lots of thanks coming in the chat. Thank you to all of you who've been part of the call, particularly thanks to Gary and to Hugh, and have a great weekend, when it comes in about 5 hours. As I say, we'll pray for the football. I don't know who they're playing tomorrow, Hugh.
They Stoke, so I hope there'll be a few injuries there.
Yeah, 3 points for sure. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you.
Nicola will convert the recording and we'll make it available as soon as we can. And have a good afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.